Want to take some of the quick-fire questions that are sent in by our listeners specifically for both of you. If you're listening, you can send in your questions to us by email, podcasts@politicon.com, or on Instagram or Twitter @Politicon. Kate, we'll start with you. I guess that says, does that say man from Los Angeles? Oh, that's Mari. Sorry. Mari from Los Angeles asks, Democrats seem to have gained ground in Arizona much faster than Georgia or North Carolina. Why?
I think that's an excellent question. Going back to the Senate race, I think that it's a combination of not only things being high stakes at the presidential level and both sides knowing that it's high stakes at the presidential level, but having that very competitive Senate, well, I don't know about competitive, but having a very unusual Senate race in which Mark Kelly's campaign, again, is ahead in the polls, has done a better job at fundraising. I think that in comparison to previous campaigns, this is where we're seeing, those grassroots campaigning and just the fact that parties matter. And in this particular campaign, Democrats have done a much stronger job than they have in years past, really getting those people registered. And, what they hope, of course, is also sending in those ballots.
Okay, Chris, Brianna from Topeka asks, people keep talking about the silent Trump voter. Are they out there in North Carolina?
I'm sure they are out there in North Carolina. It's not, we'll see, right? We'll see what happens after Election Day. I'm sure they're here. I got to tell you that, when I talk to folks that are Trump voters, they don't seem to be very silent, right? I mean, they're pretty proud of the person they're supporting. I think the silent Trump voters that perhaps existed in the 2016 election are exactly the kind of people that were turned off by 4 years of pretty divisive rhetoric. So I'm sure there are some of them. I do not see them as being the people that are going to drive this election. If Trump wins North Carolina, it's going to be close, and it's going to be kind of, I think, as we expect. I don't think there's going to be this huge groundswell of Trump support that we don't expect.
I'll tell Brianna, Wake County is not a conservative county. It's very blue, and there are more Trump signs randomly scattered around this. They aren't very shy here. So I don't know. Maybe they're shy elsewhere, but if you're going to be shy somewhere, you'd think you'd be shy here in Wake County. Kate, David from Tempe asks, should Biden be campaigning more in the state if he wants to flip Arizona?
I think that's an excellent question. And I would say that when presidential candidates visit, they got a lot of free media coverage, right? Because it's not just that they're visiting and talking with some people who support them, but they get that local news that then covers them, and it certainly would be a boost. In comparison, we saw Biden-Harris, visit Arizona October 8th, I believe it was. In comparison, Trump has been out consistently. Of course, the Biden-Harris campaign are a little bit at a disadvantage to the extent that they're not holding large rallies in the same way that the Trump campaign feels comfortable doing because of the differences in how they feel about the coronavirus. And so that is certainly a constraint. But I would say that if the Biden campaign could come out, that certainly would help boost motivation on the Democratic side.
Chris, Lilly from Greenville asks, is this the last year Republicans have a demographic chance for the presidency?
Great question. Of course, one of which Greenville, South Carolina, North Carolina.
I was asking the same thing. We're going to say North Carolina, even though the other one's closer to you, but I'll...
That's all right. We'll take the one on the eastern side of the state where President Trump was not long ago. Right. No, I don't think so. I think we're going to have a two-party system for the foreseeable future or longer, and I think the parties have a way of adapting. I don't see this as the death of, or perhaps even the decline of the Republican Party. I think we're going to have a two-party country, a polarized country for a long time to come.
I want to follow up on that one with both of you. What do you see for the future of each of your states when it comes to a presidential race in 2024? Kate, do you think Arizona has shifted towards the Democrats and will remain a swing state? Or do you think that come 2024, this race this year is so much about Trump that come 2024, Arizona will head back towards the conservative Republican side. Are you permanently a swing state, or do you think that this is just a Trump anomaly?
I mean, I think sort of both. I mean, Trump certainly makes things more of an anomaly, but I think that if you look at where Arizona has been at, going back in time, the margins in support between the Republican and the Democratic presidential candidates have been shrinking over time. And so they become much, much slimmer. I think maybe what's different is people really realizing that, whoa, those margins have been so much slimmer. And to the extent that they realize it and the Democrats see that they now have a chance in, what was previously seen as a red state, I think makes a difference. And so my bet is that Arizona continues to be a swing state in 2024.
Maybe a little different tone to the question for North Carolina, because it's been swingy for the last few cycles. Is this in North Carolina an anomaly? Is it simply that North Carolina, and like much of the rest of the country, is shifting a little bit leftward simply because of Donald Trump? Do you think 2024 will be a good year for Democrats in North Carolina, or do you think the Republicans are going to have the ability to bounce back once Trump is not on the ballot anymore?
Right.
Whether he wins or loses.
Right. I think not having Trump on the ballot will probably help. But I mean, I think it will be a swing state, certainly in 2024 and for the foreseeable future. I don't think we've experienced the kind of demographic shift that Arizona has experienced. So I think their path has probably been a little bit different than North Carolina. But I'm also seeing some of the other growth states in the South slowly moving back towards the Democratic Party, right? Again, we're seeing this, just the fact that we're having a conversation about South Carolina, perhaps a Democrat winning there, right? Even what odd stuff happened with, I know you don't buy it. I listened to your Jessica Taylor episode.
Wake me up when he wins. I mean, I'd love it, but wake me up.
I tend to agree.
Wins.
But I think what Harrison's done in all seriousness is to start to build a party back in the state of South Carolina. And so I think that can have an effect. And I think what's going to happen in North Carolina is we're going to stay fairly steady as some of these other states move. I think we'll be a purple state, a squishy state, a battleground state. You pick your adjective, we'll be there in 4 years.
Hey, I'm Clay Aiken. To hear the full episode, subscribe to This Politicon podcast on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, or wherever you listen to pods. Please subscribe, rate, and review the show. Go to Politicon.com, follow @Politicon on social media, and listen to a new pod episode of How the Heck every Thursday.